All right, wanted to do one on Serato Sampler, why I like it and how I use it. Just want to show you kind of my method to the madness. You'll see there's 3 parts here, 1, 2, and 3. This is all the same sample, but I'll show you what I do to kind of give it some variation and mix it up a little bit. Trillion is on the bass, kick snares, all are just sample, one-shot samples. I forgot where I got them from, to be honest with you. Let me see if I can remember. Yes. No, that didn't come from there. Okay, I can't remember where I got it from. I think it was from the Drum Broker, if I'm not mistaken. MSX2, their stuff. So anyway, check them out. They're really dope too. All right, so getting back to where I was. And then the UVI Percussion Factory for the shaker. I always use their stuff for like my natural percussion stuff. Okay, here it is. Just a little glimpse of what it sounds like, and then I'll tell you about it. All right, let's stop it there. So what I like to do is I'll find the sample that I'm going to use. Then I drop it into Serato Sampler, and I do 3 to 4 different versions of fine samples. This is a crew of my favorite thing about Serato Sampler is fine samples, because a lot of times you can spend so much time just trying to locate your own sample, and it's cool. It's not that you don't like it, but it can kind of kill the vibe of trying to of hunting for it. And then you end up, by the time you get that one little section, you like the sample and you go to tweak it, you end up stuck kind of with the same thing, running a 4-bar pattern the same way through the whole time. So Find My Samples can take and really speed up your workflow. It also makes it fun to randomize basically what you hear and what you get, even though it's the same sample. So check this out. Let's go to this first box here, and you'll see. By the way, this is Kalen Ellis KFFX 2.1. It's only for Ableton, but it's just a rack with all these different tools in it that in most DAWs you can get. Okay, and I usually use saturation, sometimes sample delay. Okay, let's look at this. So when you click Find My Sample on the sample rate, not only does it tell you what the key of the song is, but if you take off sync, it'll tell you kind of what the tempo is, right? And then I just sync it to whatever tempo I want it to be. So on my keyboard, let me punch it here. These chops all go across the keyboard, right? And they're all sitting on mono. I don't usually do, if I'm doing a sample, I don't usually put poly because I'm not trying to play it like a chord. I'm just playing a sample, chop of a sample, right? You can chop it yourself if you know what you want and hear it. But this is the whole point of this video, is that I like the fine samples tool. I can take a chop that I hear nothing in, and a lot of times I'll find something because the fine samples slot kind of fixes that for me. So this first one that you hear is just my intro. Right? And then of course I got to slide in on the bass. But so I'm playing with the samples just like you would do if you're in Koala. You would play with the samples right till you find something that, in Koala you don't have a Find My Sample, so it's not mixing the transients, where it's just going to show you every transient across the thing. And while that is good, it doesn't make me, because the samples have to be placed on different pads, Then I got to go through and find, and I only got 16 per page, right? So I got to go find each sample and do it. And sometimes that's kind of a tedious workflow for me. Whereas if all the samples like Serato Sampler that they find or that the transients hit were all across the keys and you could play them across keys, you could have more samples and then come up with a little rhythm pattern that you like to play. So that's what I did. I came up with that. So then I duplicate it and then I find another pattern by clicking again find my samples, and it will give me different samples. So now I'm moving to this one, right? I built something. Right, I'm trying to find a little and so then I came up with this portion of it, which is right. So that's me just playing it. And you'll see some notes are a little off here or a little bit. I'm not quantizing this stuff. I'm just playing it. I want it to sound as naturally like I played it, right? So I'm not trying to do all that extra, put it right on the grid. Sometimes you do need to change a note or two here or there if it's a little off, but that's okay. Do that. But like, just play the thing as much as you can. The more you play on it, the better your sound, in my opinion, is going to be. All right. It's just my thoughts. Again, I'm not 100% right for sure, but this is how I do it. All right, so then I do a duplicate and make another track, because once I've played with these 5 samples the way they're chopped at that point, my ear is going to get tired of that. So I need a break, and especially if I'm using the same sample the way I'm doing right here. So I'll go to another one, do the same thing, chop it again, find my sample. And every time you hit it, it's going to regenerate a new batch of what they think the samples are. And whether it's tricking my mind or not, which it probably is. So see, I'm making something new now. I'm not even thinking about what I've already played. I do not listen to try to play the same thing. I just play whatever feels. Once I get the parts together, and I have 2 different parts, 3 different parts. I knew this was going to be the intro out the gate because it was the simplicity of it. I just wanted something with a few notes in it. Then I've made 2 parts. Now I usually do a bridge. So in this case, I didn't do a bridge. I just made it. And sometimes my bridge might be just me soloing over what's already there. Just depends on what I'm doing. But you can see that how you can make at least 2 to 3 parts. And then when I go for a conclusion sound like I'm writing a paper. When I go for an outro or something like that, I might take what's the intro and just flip it and do it backwards or something and play it in rewind or something to that effect, right? Just to give it something different. Or I'll go back in and make another one and then I'll play something to make the outro. But I'm constantly refining different samples, is moving a little bit here, a little bit there to try to tweak it to get me a different vibe when I'm playing, right? So that my sample parts sound, they're going to have some similarities. It's the same sample, but it's going to have a little bit of different the way I play it, okay? The bass line is actually the same all the way through because for the most part, I always stay within the notes of the key of that song. So if you know the key, in this case, I don't need to pull up scalar. I mean, I could just look in here. Serato tells you what the key is, right? A flat minor, which is also the same as G sharp major, right? So all I got to do is, I'm going to pull up scalar just to show you because it's a visual. Here's G sharp. Actually, that's G sharp minor, but it's the same notes anyway. It is what it is. So G sharp minor, and there it is. Boom. Now, I didn't even use this, to be honest with you, but you could just you can bounce this down to like a wave and drop it in and find out what the key is, Or you could just go up here and click on scales, say, all right, this is going to be A flat, and it's A flat minor. Boom. That's A flat major. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. Where is the minor? Of course, it would not show up here. Oh, wait. All types. Right in my face, and I missed it. All right. Minor. So you can see when you do that, it's giving you the major of it, right? So technically, boom. All right. So whatever. That's the notes. And then you just play your bass based on the notes you hear. When I did it, I knew there was 3 notes I wanted to use, to be honest with you. It was F sharp, G sharp, or A flat, and then E. Those were the 3 notes I wanted. So when I played it, I basically used, if I remember right, I used 3 notes. I might use more than 3 notes. F sharp. Okay, so this is just F sharp. I'm playing an octave sometimes just to give it some variation. So you'll see me do octaves here. There's an octave, and then here's the E, right? There's the E. And then this is the only other note I used was a D sharp to give it some variation. So, right? And there it is. I played it. So I just played what I feel. I don't play... it's not that I don't know what probably the notes are and can sit there and do that. I like music when I play off of feeling more than just saying, well, that's the perfect note, that's the right. And then if I need to adjust something, I'll go back. Right, there you go. So those are turnaround notes, those the D sharp and the E. That's all I'm using them for, is a turnaround note to after I played the F. Right, or using those notes as like a little turnaround note. All right, so you get the point. Serato Sampler, this is why I like Serato Sampler. Every time I press it, I'm going to get something very on it. And that's only using that one plugin. So imagine if you sit here and keep creating, if you only had 8 tracks, let's say you had the free version, you're limited to the free version. Mind you, Scalar is taking up a track and you don't really need it if you're not really using it. So let's imagine Scalar is not there. Here you have 3 tracks. Your bass would technically take 4. The only reason this bass is here is because I use it for a slide in, and my slide in is on a different thing. It's not tied to the to this muted bass I'm using. Don't worry about that. If you only have one bass, you only need a bass track, right? So I got 3 of these. The bass track, that's 4. I have a kick, snare, hat, open hat, and this. That's 9 tracks. Now, I don't need to have all these tracks here, but the way I play is I put my kick on here. I think I did a video about this already, where I'll put the kick on a thing by itself, so I get all the pitches of the different kick. Same thing with the snare. But the truth is, I end up using only one. Typically, I might use like 1 or 2 kicks, 2 pitches of the kick, and I use like maybe 1 snare pitch. So if I put this on a drum rack on one channel, I could have it all on there and be fine, right? And I'm showing you this because technically you could put the same kick on the drum rack twice and pitch one a little bit different, and then you would have what you need. The problem for me with that is I don't always know what I'm going in for. I'll be honest, I just don't. So I need to play around until I get it, right? Until I figure out what I'm using. Now, if you already knew what you were going to use, you say, oh, that's the one. Then that's fine. Then you can put it on and be good. But I just don't, so I can't do that. All right, so hats. Got 1 hat, right? 1 snare, or open hat rather. And then right, there's that. And then if you learn, if you ever, do a percussion, you could just Literally, you could use life. You could use UVI factory percussion. You could just drag a percussion loop in if that's all you want to do. And you could even drag it in and chop it up and play it yourself. You don't even need to put it in like this. You could, if you have a percussion loop somewhere, you just grab that thing. Let's see if there's one in this kit here. Percussion, miscellaneous. There's a potato chip loop. That's interesting. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. You could just grab it, grab your potato chip loop. That's funny. And then slice. Boom. And it'll automatically slice the transients. Play whatever rhythm you want for a percussive loop. You can also drag in a drum break if you want, and just use a drum break and play those, and just chop the drums where you want them and then play those back. So you definitely wouldn't need, 3 or 4 tracks for that. So if you got the free version, you're actually solid. If you're doing sampling, you're solid. Even without Serato, like you just saw me dragging this and it chopped the samples for you once I click slice. You can change the sensitivity of it, right? Adjust how many slices you want in there. You could do it by, I'm gonna put it back at 100. You could do it by transient. You could do it by beat. So just using the Sampler in there, the Sampler alone is hands down my favorite thing. Probably my second favorite thing in Ableton is just using that, because it's like everything to me. That's all I need, right? And then if you want to pitch it, you have controls over here. You can transpose it, detune it, get wild with it, whatever you want to do. It's on you. I use other stuff just because I like the sounds of more natural things. But if you want to get real out there and test your abilities to try new things, there's nothing wrong with that. I ain't mad at you. All right, so that's it. That's all this video is, just to show you really quickly how to use Serato Sample, how I use Serato Sample. This is not how to use it. This is how I use it. Everybody has their own little workflow and thing that they like to do, and I don't knock anybody's workflow, because it's just a person's choice how they want to create. But you can limit yourself and make cool music, or you can have as much as you want and have the whole pie. But it's up to you. All right, that's it for this video. It's a little longer than what I wanted to go. That's my method to Serato Sampler, how I use it. I may change up in the future, but for right now, that find samples feature is huge, in my opinion.